Hi everybody, how's everyone doing? Yeah. It's Con of Thrones, baby! I'm Kieren Belshaw. I'm a senior correspondent for Insider. I do a lot of entertainment coverage. I'm also the author of the unofficial guide to Game of Thrones coming out later this year. Before we get started, I just want to give everyone a heads up that this is obviously a very visual heavy panel. So if you guys want to scooch forward so that you can easily see the screens on either side, strongly recommend it because we've got some really cool concept art coming up for you guys. But without further ado, start to shuffle if you'd like, and while you're doing that, put your hands together and welcome Kieren Belshaw. Yeah. Get ourselves settled in these cool director's chairs. All right, welcome to Con of Thrones.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, concept art.
Concept art, yeah.
Concept art. Could you start by just explaining sort of in layman's terms to folks who might not know how the process works for concept art on a TV show, especially one as massive as Game of Thrones?
Well, yeah, as a concept artist for Game of Thrones, I work more in pre-production, doing set design, basically, sort of designing the environments and sort of how the scenes will look with the actors in there, just to give the producers and the David and Dan and everyone an idea of how it's going to look. So that's basically my job as a concept artist. Yeah.
So do you get all the scripts ahead of time? Were you in on all the secrets from the get-go?
Yeah, I mean, usually I'd get the outline sort of quite early on, sort of way before the actors do, and David and Dan will continue working on the scripts whilst we're doing the concepts, and we'll sort of get updates as we go along. And that's sort of often how it works. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's really collaborative. So there's a lot of back and forth of ideas and tweaks to the environments and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
How much freedom do you have to sort of improvise with how you think a shot should be from an angle or a wide, or do they really give you more specifics for that?
I guess it sort of depends on the shot I'm working on. Usually, I work very closely with Deb Riley, who's the production designer. So often she'll give me a brief. She'll give me an idea of how she wants it to look. She might do a rough sketch or something, or give me some photograph references, or it might be something based on a location, like a place in Spain or something, and I'll sort of base it on that and sometimes figure it out. Sometimes I'll use 3D software to sort of roughly figure out how the scene could look.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of that, you put together all of these awesome previews that we can look at of sort of how your process worked.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, starting out here, what are we looking at?
Okay, so that's Cersei's chamber from season 6. I thought this would be a good one just to sort of show a fairly simple sort of interior scene. I did this when I first went out to Belfast the first time, because although I worked on season 5, I did that from home. So this was quite an exciting one because this was one of the first sets that I sort of designed, and I got to see the process of how it got made. And also, obviously, there was already a fair amount of King's Landing and Red Keep stuff that had been made. Mm-hmm. So I thought it'd be interesting to sort of show how we used references from previous sort of sets to sort of create this one, basically.
So you said this was season 6?
Yeah, this was season 6. Yeah.
But then we kept seeing Cersei's chambers throughout later. So I plugged in here. So this is Cersei in season 8 inside of her room, but this is sort of all based on the art that you came up with.
Based on, but I think they produced a different set.
They changed things up a little bit.
Yeah. It was a different one from. In season 7, they made a different set for her.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed, especially when I was looking back at this scene. We all know that the show kind of got increasingly more dark, both in terms of story, but also literally. And some of the cinematographers have talked about how that was due to the desire to have a naturalistic lighting. So this scene, for example, is only candles and things that would have been within the universe of Game of Thrones. Did that ever come into play when you were doing concept art, or were you more focused on just the environment as a whole?
Well, the lighting, you mean? That's a good question. Yeah, I guess it sort of depends. I mean, often with the concept art, we would kind of dictate how we thought the lighting should look, and sometimes the DOP the cinematographer would they might sort of click with that and say, oh yeah, I like that idea, I'll try and copy that. Or sometimes they might say, oh, we want the lighting like this. But a lot of the time with the concept art, they sort of let us do what we wanted to do with the lighting, and they'd sort of go along with it, or just take things in their own direction.
Yeah,
yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. So this is Cersei. This is them actually building what you had created.
Chamber.
Oh, Tommen.
Tommen's chamber, yeah.
Aww, R.I.P. Tommen.
Yeah. So that's it from season 5, basically. So this is when I went out to Belfast. This is how the set was, and I took these pictures, and they were basically going to build Cersei's chamber above this. So it had to sort of match. Had to match the kind of layout and the dimensions. So I you can see how I used the pillars and the arches, that sort of style for what I did. Yeah.
So everything, it's a big continuity thing, and so being there on the set kind of helped you match all of those things?
Yeah,
Awesome.
it did, yeah.
It's building away?
Yeah, so this is the building away of Cersei's set, so this is literally the next floor up from Tommen's. So you can see how the carpenters have put all the wood in, and it's just, yeah, and it was fun over the weeks to pop in there and see how the progress was going on it, yeah.
I mean, I think any of us in this room would have killed to be on that set, so it's really cool that you were part of that.
Yeah.
More building.
Yeah, so it's been painted up, and you see the mottled sort of look back there. That's sort of a technique they used where they I think they throw sort of like wet sort of sawdust or something on it, and and it helps when they sort of paint over it. It helps get that mottled sort of brickwork sort of effect.
Yeah, make it look as like naturalistic and lived in as possible.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so that's basically the final thing when it's all been dressed by set deck.
Cool.
So yeah.
I love this stuff. I don't know about you guys, but this is amazing. I feel like I'm getting like a behind-the-scenes tour of the entire set.
Yeah,
This is rad.
Can you guys see it? Okay, is it sort of large enough?
The library.
Citadel Library. So I thought this would be an interesting one to show because I designed it kind of from scratch. But it was a bit of an odd one, this one, because it had already been designed by someone else, and it got approved. But then, and this is a very rare thing, but HBO sort of stepped in and said they wanted something different. So
you know why?
Not totally, but it was a bit more abstract before. It was like an M.C. Escher drawing almost before, and I guess they looked at it and changed their minds, or I don't know, but David and Dan, they sort of provided some reference images of the sort of thing they wanted, and working with Deb, we sort of figured out this kind of design. So that's what we went for. Yeah.
And that's just a blank slide. There we go.
Yeah, so that's more of a close-up of Sam in there, and you see elements of the design with those spiral staircases and things, and all the shelving, and yeah.
And then we got to our final.
So that's how it looks in the episode.
Yeah.
What's funny about this is you can see it's a little different to what they did use sort of a lot of elements of what I did, because often we hand over our 3D to visual effects, and so they used my model, but they kind of adapted it a bit and added in these sort of other kind of random elements, and that's sometimes how it plays out, because it's all a process as they sort of figure out how it's going to look. So yeah. Yeah,
it's just like an evolving kind of beast of a show, right? As the weeks go on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So Battle of the Bastards. So this was a little different because usually, as a concept artist, stuff gets scheduled in, like different sets and stuff. But this was like a request from Miguel, the director. They wanted this body pile, and they wanted an idea of sort of how big and how high it would be, and sort of just to get an idea of how it would look. Yeah.
And then
and it's a similar thing.
The Crush.
Yeah.
I think that was like the nickname for this, right? The Crush of
all
the bodies. It was brutal. So this is what it wound up actually looking like on.
Yeah.
This is like an above shot, and then we had 1-1 doing his thing out there. Ooh, a little.
And this was all Miguel's idea. He came up with this. This wasn't in the script.
Oh.
So he came into the art department one day, and he needed a concept artist to sort of like prove his idea, prove his concept, and so that's what I did. I didn't have much time to do it,
Yeah.
but I chucked together this concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get to kind of be like the backup evidence for why a certain idea might work better on
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, we kind of like we'll help the directors out or the producers if they have certain ideas and
Yeah.
want to present them.
Tell me about what's happening
Yeah.
here.
Well, yeah, I thought this was amusing. Yeah, they set up this test body pile in the throne room, and so I wandered in there a few times and took lots of reference pictures, and I thought it would be a funny thing to show you guys because it's sort of
So this was for Battle of the Bastards, but they just put it in the throne room for fun.
Well, yeah, because you got the space, you may as well use it. I mean,
I at first when I saw these pictures, I was like, what scene got cut from the final season?
Yeah.
But no, there was never a plan for dead horses to surround the.
They're not real as well, in case anyone's wondering. But yeah, but those cost a lot. Those fake.
They look very real, so
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're not. This is a bleak scene.
Yeah.
What do we got here? More. This is just a gruesome. Oh, this is the Pana.
Yeah.
Big Pana. So yeah, a lot of space in there to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. They'd often use when it wasn't being filmed in there. They'd often use the space and they just dump things in there, just because.
Why not? So here we have the Dragonstone set, right?
Yeah, so I thought it'd be good. Yeah, but so starting on season 7, this was like the first thing I was tasked with to do was Dragonstone, all the exteriors for Dragonstone, and they found these locations in Spain, and they sort of came to me and sort of said, okay, we've got this, Zamaya Beach. We like the sort of rock work there, and I can't pronounce the name of the other place. But,
we don't have to try. It's a place.
It's northern Spain somewhere. It's a nice sort of island, and and it's got that pathway going up.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's all about piecing those together. So that was kind of the brief. And yeah, this is going into the Dragonstone Gate. These are the primitive sort of dragon heads that David and Dan sort of wanted in the end.
Yeah. Because Danny's she has this like silent. There's basically no dialogue in the scene of her leading up to walking to the beach. So it was really like a visual heavy moment for the premiere.
Yeah, for David and Dan, it was a big moment. It was her homecoming. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Dragonstone definitely wound up being one of the most memorable locations that we had in those final seasons. It was just so iconic from the get-go.
Absolutely.
And then so they actually made those massive.
Yeah. So they actually sort of sculpted them. They sculpt them in polystyrene because anything that's massive like that, just like the dragon skull from the skull room. Anything that's big like that. And there you get an idea of how it was built. And
Little baby.
Yeah, that's like a little baby one. They made just as like a little test. Based on my concept. Yeah.
Dragon Pit.
Yeah. So this is just like a very loose sketch, an early version. David and Dan were just sort of like, we want a bit of a dome structure, but not too much. But then they kind of changed their minds. It's sort of a back and forth process.
Yeah. Yeah, I like even like down to like the style of the tent was changing.
Oh yeah. That was a big thing, the pergola.
Yeah.
Jeremy, the director on that episode, because this was the first time we'd seen so many characters together in one sort of scene like this. So there was a lot of moving around and trying to figure out, is the view going to be blocked by anything? What's the lighting going to be like? So Jeremy and the DOP, they came to my desk a lot to sort of see how it was looking and make changes.
Yeah, I like this like kind of like rounder version that was in the mix for a little bit.
Yeah, those are like early versions, just trying out different ideas. Cersei on a raised stage, and then bringing her down to the same level as them, just sort of. Because it's a bit of an odd thing because it's this Colosseum Italica, the location in Spain, and it is a bit strange because you just got this square thing in the middle, which they wanted to do, and so it's like, how do you bring these people together to have this meeting, and how do you make it look, So it was a tricky one.
Yeah.
A tricky one. Yeah.
And that meeting was like a big secret, like a massive part of the final season. And so for you, is it tough to keep those secrets, or was it tough? Now you're free. You can, talk ad nauseum about it. But was it tough in the process to know all of this stuff in advance and have to keep it to yourself?
Yeah. It wasn't too bad. You just sort of have to do your best just not to think about it, I suppose. And when temptation comes along, not to say anything, really. Yeah.
You have a lot of self-control. It's impressive. Here. This. Tell us everything about what's happening here.
Yeah, so going on to season 8. So this is the first thing I did, really. Often at the beginning of a season, I'd start working from home for like the first week. So I think Deb would get me to do that just to kind of like warm up. And we were just sort of exploring ideas with Winterfell. We had an outline that David and Dan gave us for the long night. We were just exploring ideas, and
So that's Arya, right?
That's Arya, yeah. So
but this was not a scene that actually happened.
Not really. I think it probably was in the outline. I think it was in the outline, but they ended up taking a lot out because they had to cut it down quite a bit. Yeah.
Because when I first saw this, I was like, okay. In the episode, I think a lot of fans wound up having a bit of a question about like how Arya got from inside the castle of Winterfell like to the Godswood when she kind of like jumps out and kills the Night King. And so this was like to me this was like a piece of the puzzle. I was like, oh, she was like on the rooftops of Winterfell, sort of.
Yeah.
Right?
This is her on the way. This is she's working her way towards it. Yeah.
This is like an alternate.
Yeah, this is like the final version I did of that one. And the cool thing is I got to show this to Maisie Williams, actually, because in a very rare occurrence, she actually came into the art department, and this never really happens. I mean, the actors never really come into the art department. So, but they brought her in quite early because they knew, obviously, she was going to be a big part of this season with what happens. So Miguel, he wanted her to see. They wanted her to see and get an idea of how it was going to look. So, and when I showed her this image, her face really lit up, and she got very, very, very excited.
I mean, she's climbing on roofs and looking at fire-breathing dragons. What's not to be stoked about?
Yeah, exactly.
How long does it take you to complete? Like you said, this is the final version. What was like the length of time that it took to get to this point with this concept?
One like this, not like a couple of days, just like working away at it, and like the first version I'd send one evening, and then this version I'd sort of have the next evening maybe, and I'd email them to Deb, and she'd say, yeah, it's great, or
yeah,
if it's working or not. Yeah,
putting my work ethic to shame here. It took 2 days.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Thanks.
And now we get some cool. This was all the bells, right?
Yep.
Second to last episode.
Penultimate episode. So yeah, this is for the Red Keep because we sort of realised, because we'd not really seen the throne room that up close in an exterior sort of view. So we needed to take the VFX model and sort of redesign the throne room a little bit, just a few tweaks. So I put in just that single sort of window at the back that sort of matches the window that's in the actual throne room.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then they had to build it out. Well, this is the stairwell.
Yeah, that's jumping a bit, but that's all right.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here with the Hound and the mountain.
That's okay.
This is partway through the destruction.
Yeah, this is for the tower. This is an exterior view that Miguel asked for of the Red Keep Tower to just give an idea of how it would look and get a slight sense of the interior structure of the tower. Yeah.
Cool. And then we get to our
Yeah.
Our big moment.
Clegane Bowl. So
Cue the air horns. It's all happening.
So I designed the tower kind of from scratch, so that was quite a fun one to work on. Figuring out in 3D, rendering it, and then coming up with these concepts. So this was a good angle to show, looking up, to get a real sense of the structure.
I really love Cersei's expression on her face
Yeah.
here in the lower corner. Okay, so this is what you were talking with, like the VFX.
Yeah. So so you can see I was playing around with different versions, different dimensions of spiral staircase. This is often how I work. I'll just sort of admire. I'll just try different variants of design. And at one point, Miguel sort of said, he wanted something more oval, sort of shaped, to give space for the actors where they're fighting. And we sort of worked with the stunt team a bit as well, because they needed to give us dimensions and how the stairs would be. And that's kind of like the final version that I came up with in terms of the 3D layout. Yeah. And that's just a straight render in a program called Keyshot.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you're working with the directors, obviously, the writers, the actors. In the case of Maisie Williams, came in for this season. The stunt team. So it's really like every single person has to be like in constant communication about the possible changes to all the various scenes.
Yeah, definitely. It's integral to. It's a well-oiled machine. Is how it is with how it's been with the Game of Thrones. I've always been impressed working on it. How well it works with the communication between the departments.
It's incredible. I'm just stuck on Clegane Bowl apparently here in this PowerPoint presentation. It's fine. We can just Clegane Bowl it up for the next 20 minutes. Just kidding. We are going to get to more. Oh, this is what I did. I zoomed in on Cersei.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
This expression, were you just like, this is probably how she's feeling in this moment?
Yeah, yeah, the tower's crumbling on your head, yeah. And everyone kind of, by this point, everyone kind of felt this way about Cersei.
She had it coming.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this is this is a prop I got to design, which usually wouldn't happen. There's another concept artist, Jessica Sinclair, and she sort of did a lot of the prop design, but I think she may have already left by this point. So the little tin horse that the girl has in the penultimate episode, they needed a design for that. So I came up with a few different versions, and these are what I came up with, and this is the one David and Dan went for. Yeah. Yeah.
So this. Ooh, sorry. What did I just do? This was the final version. You said?
Yeah. This is the version they approved.
Yeah. And then this is what it looks like in the episode at the
that's
post burning.
Exactly. I think is that the final or one of the final shots of that episode?
Yeah, I think so. This is like Arya has like this big emotional moment where she sees the girl still holding the horse. So sad.
Yeah.
Sorry, horse.
Yeah.
And we're stuck on horses forever. Guys, PowerPoint is a, modern invention that I know how to use.
I think I was using the latest version of PowerPoint, and she's got a different version, I think, so that's why there's a slight...
It's fine.
But it's all good. It's all good.
So here we have the entrance to King's Landing. So they completely redesigned how this looked for season 8, right?
Yeah. So in early versions of the script, they had this Red Keep Gate house where they knew a few things were going to happen. But at that point, it was going to be like just characters going through there, like the Hound and Arya and Jaime trying to get in there. But then they sort of realized that they realized that Dany was going to have a speech, but they didn't know where. They thought it was going to be like a town square or something. So then, but then as it evolved, it was sort of decided that it was going to be the Red Keep Gatehouse. Because at first we had this bridge across a moat.
A moat?
A moat, yeah. And they
could have had moats?
Yeah.
Were there creatures in the moats? I want to know all about the moats. Got it. So this was stage 1 of Dany's speech position.
Yeah, so this is how it sort of evolved. So before it was a bridge over a moat, and then, I think it is still kind of a moat, kind of down there, but it was never really shown. But I don't know. But,
the mysteries of King's Landing are never going to be revealed to us.
But yeah, so yeah, this is just to show how it evolved really, and as the stairs got bigger, they wanted it to become more grand and epic.
More flags.
Yeah.
All the more flags.
Yeah.
So when did it transition from, because like this is a very not snowy version. When did it transition to needing to be, winter is here?
It just sort of did. I think David and Dan asked for it at some point. Well, because at first me and Deb, we weren't sure what the weather would be like, basically. But then it was kind of confirmed from David and Dan that it was snowing or whatever it is. Yeah.
And so they built, the way that they actually brought the scene to life was building this staircase and then green screening the rest?
Yeah. I mean, you see it there. You can see what was built. So, yeah, so much of it was VFX, but and it was wonderful. It was wonderful to see that VFX sort of captured what I designed, which often, like with the Citadel library, sometimes doesn't happen. But they really,
pretty spot on in this case.
Yeah.
Back to our moats. Love a good moat.
Oh yeah.
So
that's the thing.
You had to do, so this was like one of the most, I feel like, iconic shots. Actually, it was fun. I don't know how many people followed the press release photos for all the episodes, but the way that HBO always did it was like the Wednesday before the episode, they would send out a batch of official images that people could, like, all like press people could share. And usually it was like, I want to say between like 5 and 10 was average, depending on like how epic the episode was going to be. We got the email for the finale, and it was literally just one picture. And it was this shot, the like behind shot of Dani about to give her speech. And I feel like every person in the world was like double checking their inbox to make sure that they're like, we hadn't like missed a picture or something, but it was literally just this shot. This was the only tease that we really got for that final.
Yep. No, I mean, yeah, this was very important for David and Dan, this one. In fact, whilst working on this concept, this is the only time they ever came to my desk.
Really?
Yeah. To critique my work because, it was very important to them how it looked. And
what were their like primary needs for this shot?
Basically, they wanted to see everything in there. One of the main sticking points was the city, because the model from VFX, it was sort of it felt more like you were looking across the city, but for them, they wanted it to feel more like you're looking down over the city. They really wanted it to feel like Daenerys is sort of looking down over, the city that she's just destroyed. They really wanted a sense of that, and that was the main thing they came to my desk to sort of tell me about, and to sort of like, yeah.
I really like when these switch from having no flags to more flags. Like there was like a point in which it was like, how many flags do we possibly need? And then back to a few flags. Tell me about her arm gesture in this.
That was something. That was something Deb asked for, and I tried it, but then we thought it didn't look so good. So.
Well, because I think Emilia Clarke herself has said that she like watched videos of, I think it was like literally Hitler making speeches for the inspiration of this scene. And so was that something that David and Dan were talking to you about how they wanted the feel of this to be, or like to mimic actual real dictatorships that had happened in the world, or atrocities?
Yeah, a little bit. That was definitely part of the discussion. Mostly like you pointed out before, with the banners and stuff. And a lot of it with like the city destruction. Something they kept bringing up was sort of Second World War bombings, like how the cities of Dresden sort of looked, things like that. And that was, one of the key references that we were constantly sort of reminded to sort of look at.
Wow.
So
you would actually have like historical photos in some cases?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And so then we get her like pushed forward a little bit in the frame. So
Yeah. I mean, that's something Deb asked for. She thought, it was a bit low in frame before. She looks cooler there, don't you think? I mean,
and then again, we go from like daytime smoke destruction to like wintry smoke destruction.
So so it was changed because I was working on this one and the front view sort of at the same time. So that's why they kind of, the last version, it changes to snow, because it's sort of like, I can't remember it, but I guess I was told change it to snow. So So that's what I did.
I also like even like the detailing between her hair. So like in some of these, her hair is braided straight down her back, and in other times it's like blowing in the wind. So again, you're bringing in like another department possibly. So like, were you talking with costuming as well, and like hair and makeup sometimes?
Not really. I suppose that's the one thing actually. There was very rarely any communication between us and makeup and costume really. So that's why often when you see my concepts, they might look like they're in a costume from a previous season because
you were just working off of what you had already seen.
Exactly, yeah. And I think part of it was simply just because costume was like the other side of the studio, so it was very, very difficult to sort of get over there and get new information on how things are going to look.
Yeah. Just all being in the same building sometimes doesn't sort out. So this is one of the final results of the angle. So this is how it actually turned out. Were you also part of the concept for the shot of Drogon's wings popping up behind Daenerys? Did you know about that before you saw the episode?
Sadly not. But I was impressed when I saw it.
Yeah. What was it like for you to actually watch the episodes?
Kind of stressful.
What made it stressful?
I don't know, because I had so much anticipation, and when I finished working on it, it was sort of like the year before. So I'd literally been waiting a whole year for this season to come out, so the amount of anticipation had just sort of built up over that year, and I was really like, oh my God, I want to see these episodes and see how it's turned out, and so it was very exciting to see them, but also. Yeah, I don't know. The anticipation was just so overwhelming. It was actually quite emotional as well. It was quite emotional.
Was there a particular scene from this most recent season that like surprised you, either because you weren't involved in that particular concept art or just for emotional purposes?
Good question. Probably the bit where Dany turns. It's like.
You didn't, yeah.
I mean, the thing is, I sort of knew about it, but it sort of it surprised me how powerful the moment was. Yeah.
It's cool that you got to do all of like the before and after art for her, and like if that moment was so impactful for you, you got to do all the concept art for like the fallout of that decision.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah.
This is another.
Yeah, that's an example of a concept not working.
Why? Tell us why it's not working.
Because I was using composition from the more complete-looking gate, and it just looks a bit flat and dull, and it's not very interesting. And but I was just starting to play around with the destroyed version of the gate. So I went into a program called ZBrush and just kind of destroyed the gate, basically. Which is quite a fun, easy thing to do. You just take it and destroy it.
Always easier to destroy than create.
Yeah. So then I chose a different angle, and this was working better. They wanted this sort of wide-angle view of how that area would look, and I just and this was like an early-ish version of it, and Deb really liked this one, so I just kept working it up and sort of went from there.
Yeah, so this is closer. This is the final?
Yeah, that's the final version. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nope. Revisiting the one that we don't want.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so
the gate.
Yeah, this is the second Red Keep gatehouse. Well, not gatehouse. It's a gate, but because I think originally it was going to be the main gate where this happened, where the people were trying to get in. And that's why you had the bridge, and people were going to fall off the bridge into the moat.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so that's what they were sort of thinking they were going to do. But then it sort of turned more into just like a bit of a crush.
Right, because instead of it being people coming from outside King's Landing just trying to get into the city, this is like halfway through the city basically, right? And they're sealing off.
Yeah, it's kind of like the outer wall of the Red Keep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that was the final version of that, because it kind of changed a bit as we went along, and that's sort of like tying it in with the King's Landing set, basically. Yeah.
Because this is when we see Arya and the Hound and Jaime all kind of
converging.
Ships in the night a little bit.
Sort of, yeah, they sort of pass each other. But yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And there we have.
So that's so that's an early version. And I don't know if you can see, but there's people.
Oh no!
Like,
Right, well, like way in the background here, there's just like one guy falling off the moat or into the moat.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, here we have the Drogon, Jon Snow
Yeah.
face off.
Yeah. So this was quite an exciting one to be briefed on. As soon as I was told what the scene was, I was like, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah.
What made you so pumped about it? Are you a Jon Snow fan?
Jon Snow and Drogon's cool, and the idea of him sort of emerging from the snow, I thought was a really cool idea. I thought visually that would look great. And you've got the ruins there and everything. It was just a really fun image to work on. It was just really. Do
you know about the great snow versus ash debate?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Not entirely. David and Dan were I think they were sort of deliberately vague about it. They were kind of.
Even to you?
Yeah. They were like, yeah, the snow. Yeah, when they told me to put the snow in. So I think they were like, is it snow? Is it ash? I don't know. So.
I think at a panel yesterday we came up with the term snash. It's just a lot of snash flying around in the air in general.
Sort of mixed together.
Sure. So this is another example of like VFX rendering that you have to partner with, right?
Yeah. What you can see actually is I used a basic model of Drogon from the VFX guys that I could sort of pose, put it in different positions, and then that was really useful to sort of work on top of.
Yeah, because then that turns into
that.
Our Drogon. And our poor guy. He looks so like creepy in his VFX mode.
Yeah.
But now he's a cute, cuddly, snash-covered dragon.
Yeah.
More Drogon. Oh.
Okay.
Throne room.
Yeah, throne room. Yeah.
This was an epic scene. How did it feel to get in on this incredible moment so soon in the process? Because how far out, we're talking like a year and a half before the episodes aired that you were?
Yeah, that I started on it. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very exciting. I was pretty chuffed to get that. I mean, because that's the thing. Most of my focus on the final season was the last two episodes. So getting all this stuff on the throne room was pretty exciting, and finding out everything that happened. But then, like you said, then you have the responsibility of keeping it to yourself. No, it was really cool, and it was really cool to see it when it was made. Seeing all the rubble and everything in there, and what do you call it?
Snash.
Snash.
That's the official term, everybody. We don't know if it's snow or ash, so we're just going to compromise. Well, it's definitely some snow.
Yeah.
Right?
But yeah, it looked beautiful. I was blown away when the set was finished, and it was so cool to walk around it. I mean, yeah, I loved it.
Aww.
This is for the melted throne.
Right. So this is a photo that Entertainment Weekly put out of every obviously like Kit, Amelia, David, and Dan on the set, but right behind them is the melted pool of Iron Throne, and so you had the task of figuring out how that would, like how the throne would actually physically melt and what it would look like afterwards.
Yeah, this was an odd one because I wasn't given much time on it. And a different Jessica Sinclair, she was tasked with doing it for a while at first. I think she was working from home at the time. And basically the producers had an idea of how it should look. And one of the key things for them is they wanted it to look like this sort of, when it finished melting, they thought it should look like this sort of amorphous blob kind of thing, which I thought was a bit odd, but if that's what they want, that's what you do, because,
Why did you think it was odd?
It doesn't look that cool, does it? I mean, I don't know.
Like a jellyfish throne thing?
Yeah, something like that. So I sort of reread the script for that moment, and the way David and Dan described it, I was thinking, well, that's not what they want. They want something that's more of a sort of well, kind of like that, the sort of puddle on the ground. And I started thinking about like the T-1000, in Terminator, and how that sort of looks. And I thought it would look cool if just the sword hilts were poking out. And I did this in a very short space of time. Hardly had any time at all. Did it like in a day.
Wow.
And then we had this big meeting with like all the producers and David and Dan, and I presented these images, and they were like, "Yep, that's it." And then, yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah. And then a guy called Gavin Jones, he sculpted it. I think he did the original throne. So he sculpted the one that you saw on set. But sadly, in the episode, you don't really see it all that well, because it's covered in VFX kind of molten metal. But which was a shame, because what he sculpted looked awesome. But so that's why I put that photograph in there, because
That's what it was.
that's kind of, you get an idea of what it looked like, but they're kind of obstructing the view a bit. But yeah, I mean, that's just the way it works sometimes, But, yeah.
Why was there such a short amount of time for you to figure out all the throne stuff?
I guess, well, yeah, because of the schedule, and Jess had been on it for a while. Yeah, it's just the way it pans out sometimes. You don't get much time. Yeah.
This is fascinating to me. What is happening here?
Well, so this is another one where fairly early on, the producers, so like Bernie Caulfield and Chris Newman, they had the idea of having that big meeting in the throne room, post everything that happened.
So this is an early idea for how King Brand would be elected, would actually be in this, the throne room.
Yeah, they like the idea of it being in there, and but so I did this as a proof of concept kind of thing, and and I like the idea. I thought it looked cool, but then it was shown to David and Dan, and they were like, no.
Just because it was like, yeah, why did they give you any feedback as to why it wasn't going to work in that room, or why they wanted it in the dragon pit instead?
Yeah, not really, because I mean they call the shots, but I can see why they chose not to, because literally in the scene before you see everything that happens with Danny and everything. So it would have been, for me, I think it would have been a little weird if it sort of cuts from that to them having a meeting in there where she was just killed, So.
Right, and there's a time jump, so it's like, would they really have not, tidied up a little bit in this room?
Exactly, yeah.
In the intervening time.
But it was very useful doing those concepts to explore how the throne room was going to look, because those are like the first concepts I did. So it was a useful part of the discussion as we were sort of figuring out how many pillars were destroyed, how much had Drogon destroyed already. So it was a useful exercise for that. Yeah.
One thing that I saw a lot of people saying about like the staging and the entire set design of the destroyed throne room was it almost felt like a play, like a stage set in a way, because it was so intimate, but it also had these like really big, beautiful, epic, like the destroyed pillars and whatnot. Did you approach designing this, like the destroyed version of the throne room, any differently than some of the other, like especially like the exterior shots?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was driven just by how integral a scene it was, and you already had the the throne room there, so you had the design. And also, we did work with a couple of VR guys as well, actually. Who,
really?
They made the set in, a 3D model of it, and you could actually go in there and explore it and see how it looked. And it was a new thing we were trying out, so the directors and DOP could sort of look at it and get an idea of the space. So I was kind of like, whilst I did these, I was working with the VR guys, and we were kind of like doing back and forth, giving each other the 3D models and working it up, and so that sort of helped with that sort of designing the epicness of it.
Yeah. So you got to virtually walk through. Everything.
Yeah. I got to virtually walk through, and I got to virtually see John standing there holding Danny, and think, oh dear.
Oh dear. Yes, that's exactly what we were all saying at home. Just, oh my. More throne room. Council of Lords. Oh, and so here, this is what the scene actually wound up looking like instead.
Yeah. Back to the dragon pit. Yeah, because David and Dan, they seem totally 100% adamant they wanted it there. I think it's partially because they wanted to go to Spain. And
Any excuse to go hang out in Spain for a
Yeah.
few weeks with
some nice Spanish food.
all of your cast and crew,
Yeah.
you know.
It's a nice area. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
You know, so
The tent change-up is happening here again, and
yeah, because at first we were thinking, okay, well, let's just use the pergola we had before. We were thinking, you know, we'll just make it look a bit weathered, a bit battered, you know, it's been a bit destroyed. But then we sort of, I think, I'm not 100% sure why it changed, but I think it was just maybe a little too expensive to sort of rebuild it again or something. So Deb was just like, we'll come up with like a simpler structure. So I came up with that tent design, and as soon as she saw it, she was like, yep, that's great, we'll go with that. Yeah.
when I first saw this, I thought it was like a spoiler protection tactic. Because
Well, maybe-
like,
yeah.
it's more covered, so you'd think that like people trying to take pictures from far away would have a tougher time
Yeah.
photographing everybody.
Yeah, maybe I subconsciously did that when I designed it. So yeah.
Protecting the secrets,
Yeah,
even from the concept art.
Yeah. Oh. Well, yeah. So that's from the promo. That's the Crypt promo.
So you did concept art for even just that teaser.
Yeah. So that was quite unusual because it wasn't part of the actual series. And the funny thing is, I did this right at the end. So after everything else I did on season 8, this was like one of the last things I did. But it was kind of funny because obviously it came out before the series came out. So it was kind of interesting to
An
finish
inverse
it.
like work relationship to what we're actually seeing.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm pretty sure I started following you on Instagram after you posted some of these crypt statues thing. Because this is Catelyn, right?
Yeah. This is Caitlin. Yeah. Caitlin was the first one I designed. And well, it was actually it was quite useful doing it at the end because through the season I was learning ZBrush by doing all those destroyed buildings and stuff. So, and I did the tin horse in ZBrush as well. So when I got to Caitlin, I thought, you know, the brief came in for this promo, and Deb told me about it, and I was like, yeah, I want to give it a go, kind of thing. And so I tried Caitlin first, you know, just, you know, I was a little sort of like, can I do this? But then it just sort of came together, and with Caitlin, it worked, and then that was given to the sculpture team, and then I just did the others. But I had more time on Caitlin and Arya. Jon Snow and Sansa, I only had like a day on each to sculpt it, you know, texture it, you know, work it up and everything. So it's probably the most intense I've ever worked, actually. And yeah, that was extreme.
Yeah. And then I feel like there was like a really intense and like almost immediate response to those statues in particular. Like it burgeoned all of these theories about like, what does it mean? Is he older? Is he not older? With like which one of them is aged? And were you surprised to see that your work had such like a snap of impact on the fandom?
Well, yeah, I was a little surprised by some of the reactions, but I knew the whole thing with the promos. They wanted to get people talking and get all these theories coming up and stuff. So I thought it was kind of amusing, and I thought it was kind of amusing because you see a lot of people saying, "Oh, Jon Snow looks older, but the others look younger" or something. But that wasn't intentional. That was just the sculpture team because they didn't have much time and they did the best job they could. And it ended up looking the way it did.
Yeah, I mean it worked because it got everybody hyped and talking.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I wish that we had 100 more of these slides to go through, but unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. But thank you so much for your work on the show and for being here.
Thank you.
Sharing the secrets. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have a good rest of the con.
Yeah. Thank you.